Rewind and Digress is a FakeShem.net podcast proudly presented by Viewlorium. Alternative movies, alternative streaming, totally free at viewlorium.com.
Welcome to Rewind and Digress, where we hit pause on the now and track back to one of our favourite films, share a roof with it, argue over whose turn it is to wash the dishes, pick its pubes off the soap, bitch behind its back, and love it like a housemate. I'm Jarrett and I'm with Glenn and we're FakeShem.net. On this episode, we're rewinding back to 2014 for writer-director Jared Johnston's wildly entertaining comedy horror, Housebound. Now, Glenn, very first question, sir. Hi, by the way, I haven't actually said hello to you.
G'day.
So, good to see you.
It's good to be here, mate.
Excellent. Well, now, let's get right into it. When was the first time you saw Housebound?
I reckon it was just the usual when it got released on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
Blu-ray was the first. In fact, I remember you gave me a slick
That's correct.
with the director's signature. He
correct.
autographed it.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I had the cover without the disc.
Ah,
Right? So I always everyone's raving about this film. I've got to see it. See it. And it just took for so long. And at the time, I owned a video store, and I remember an opportunity for an X rental, and I'm like, oh, that's going in my cover. That's going in my basket.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And that's when I saw it. And to be honest with you, I found the film really underwhelming when I first watched it.
Oh, right. Upon the first viewing.
Upon the first viewing.
Wow.
Second viewing, I found it really underwhelming.
Wow.
I've got to admit.
And okay, so the third viewing?
Third viewing
So
was
you've watched it 3 times, though. That's pretty good.
4 times.
Oh, sure,
The
you're
third
right.
viewing, I found it really underwhelming.
Oh, my God.
And then I watched it again last night.
Right.
Slightly better.
Oh, my God. I thought fourth time might be the charm in this instance. Okay,
There's a lot of things I like about this.
I feel like, it's funny because there's something I'm going to touch on later in the episode. Like, I kind of liken the film a little to Cabin in the Woods, and you've told me that you didn't enjoy Cabin in the Woods, so it doesn't surprise me that you don't enjoy Housebound. Blows my mind, again, but yeah.
No, but for different reasons.
Right, okay. Oh, well, we'll touch on them as we go.
Okay.
First time I saw this film, I missed it at MIFF. It played MIFF in 2014, but I caught up with it, I think about a month later in Sydney. It played Sydney Underground Film Festival. It was the opening night film, and I actually had my short budget cuts play in Sydney at that festival. So I was there to see the film, and I fucking loved it, man. Like, I was really blown away with it. I mean, there'd been a strong resurgence of New Zealand cinema at the time, and particularly New Zealand genre cinema, and I was just floored. I'd heard nothing of the film except that it had played MIFF, and I probably should have seen it. And so seeing it, I was just... Yeah, it was like genuinely good suspense. Like, people jumped and you could feel the whole room jump. The jokes hit. Everything sort of just worked. And I remember walking out of the cinema and talking about the movie maybe for about an hour or so while I drank free booze. But yeah, I was like floored the first time I watched it.
It's really funny though, because everything you've said is true. Like, jokes all hit their mark, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so the things that hit true there with what you said, we've reacted differently to.
Right.
Because I watch it and I recognise the humour. Like, there's a really strong New Zealand sense of humour, and
Absolutely.
I would like a bit later on to talk about what is New Zealand humour, because it's unique to anything else.
Totally.
But there's something about this film that I cannot get into. I think it might be I think the pacing is slightly off.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's a very slow burn film.
It is slow, yeah.
And I think the final act is fantastic.
Terrific, yeah.
It takes so
Great
fucking long to
finale.
get there, though.
I just love the journey. Because, I mean, like, and I'll touch on it later about the tonal shift throughout the film, because it's about 3 films in one, the different types of films
There are things about the journey that I love.
And for those, that all works for me.
There are things I love about the journey, and I'll talk about them when we get to that moment. But, I don't know. Look, I'm going to go back for the 5th time.
Well, I applaud you for that. Like,
Yeah.
that's great. Like, you might have actually watched this film more times than I had. I think I've seen it 3 times.
You know what I'm like with films too? I'm dogged. I keep at them like a dog gnaws at a bone, right? And because I watch this and I know there's more to it than what
Yeah.
I'm getting, and so I go back and I go back and I
Yeah.
I do it with so many films that I don't like. And
I agree. I
people
do
say
it with some films as
Death
well.
Machine's another one. People say,
Right.
why do you go back to
Yeah.
that? And I'm like, well, because I think there's something really cool in here
Yeah.
and I don't know how to articulate it or what.
And one day it's just gonna
Pop.
work.
Yeah.
It's gonna work for you. Look, let me tell you a bit about the film for the listeners that haven't seen it. This is the studio synopsis. This is what is on the back of the slick, and it says Kylie Bucknell is forced to return to the house she grew up in when court places her on home detention. Her blabbermouth mother Miriam is convinced the house is haunted. When Kylie too becomes privy to the strange happening, she wonders if she's inherited her mother's overactive imagination, or if the house is indeed possessed by a hostile spirit who's not particularly happy about her return. It's a reasonable synopsis. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen in these movies. It's kind of hard to wrap it up into
How do we
three sentences.
talk about this without spoilers?
No, we've got to clearly you've got to spoil the shit out of the movie.
Spoiler
if you,
alert.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've not watched Housebound, you need to come back to this podcast and have a listen afterward, because there is no way really to talk about the movie without spoiling it, because I'm going to spoil it.
So we've got a friend of fakeshemp.net who runs a very successful paranormal investigation group called Access Paranormal. You'll see their logo on our homepage on our website. I've told her to get ahead and watch this before she listens to the podcast, right? Because there are things about paranormal investigation in this film that are so accurate.
Right.
Very, very accurate. You know the security guard that...
Yes, Amos.
Yeah, Amos. The moment that he flips into mode, right?
Yeah.
You know that moment he realizes, hang on, there's a haunting here.
Yeah, it's totally good.
And he goes from security guard to serious paranormal investigator,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
The way that he's portrayed is absolutely uncanny in its depiction. I've been around these people.
I've been around a few of them myself,
Right.
Yeah.
And they're exactly like
Yeah,
you,
totally.
right? And I've told her, look, you've got to watch this film. You've got to listen to our podcast. But yeah, spoiler alert.
If you haven't seen it,
stop now.
Pause now, come back. It's not hard to track down. It is, I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix or Stan. It's on one of the streaming services in Australia. You won't have any difficulty tracking it down. It is a bit tricky to find on DVD and Blu-ray. I noticed it's not on the JB Hi-Fi website. I don't know if it's on Amazon. But I'm sure you can jump on eBay and pick it up cheaply.
You can watch it on YouTube for $4.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So it's on YouTube. Now, look, I guess I want to move into the casting sort of the film. Morgana O'Reilly, she plays the lead of Kylie, and I think she's like really well cast as this angsty sort of antisocial 20-something. She's very attractive, yeah, absolutely. And funnily enough, throughout the film, because apparently the black dye was really, just... I don't know what does to ladies' hairs. It ruins the lady hair.
Yeah.
So she
The
refused to
lady hair.
the lady hair refused to keep dyeing it, and subsequently is wearing wigs throughout. I mean, it's pretty good because I didn't tell. And
no.
I listened to the commentary and I was like, oh, it's a wig. Oh, maybe if I watched it with Danny might have picked up on it. But no. Anyway, I think she plays the role incredibly well. She
does.
a brat. And you feel bad for the way she treats her mum, but at the same time, you can kind of identify with her maybe from your teenage years or so, and she's still somewhat likable. And I mean, that's
Well, yeah, she's a grown adult with teenage angst. She's a she-child.
yeah, totally. Because
Yeah.
she'd be in her mid-20s, would you say?
Yeah, I'd
they never
say
really give her a
closer
year,
to
but
30.
say yeah,
Yeah.
late 20s maybe. Sadly, I don't think she's really gone on to do an awful lot of stuff. I had a look, and she was on like 2 seasons of Neighbours about a year after the movie
She
came out.
wrote a TV series
Right,
that
okay.
had 4 episodes.
Ah.
Don't recall the name of it, but
Was it a New Zealand? I imagine a New Zealand
it
TV
would have
series.
been. It would have been. I don't know what it was.
It's a shame because a lot of talent that works within New Zealand don't really seem to get to work outside of New Zealand. I mean, they do have a very great film industry in Auckland with a lot of productions
Most of the
coming
cast,
over.
if you actually look them up, same with any New Zealand film, they cross over to Australia and do a lot of Australian stuff. Like,
Yeah.
That's it.
They have an Australian stint maybe and then end up back in
Yeah.
New Zealand, Anyway, moving on, Rima T.
Waiata.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she hadn't really been working a lot. She'd been out of the industry for a while, kind of came back to this film since she's had a bit of a renaissance.
Because before
Hunt for the
this,
Wilder
she was
People.
probably best known for Full Frontal.
Yeah, back in the early 90s, maybe
Yeah.
93 or something, the Eric Bana era.
Which is
of
why I
Full
knew her
Frontal.
face when I
Yeah.
first saw her in it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, I
totally.
know this woman. And then she pops up in Hunt for the Wilder People.
And she's terrific.
Oh, my God.
Heartbreaking.
What a character actress.
Incredible. And she's going to be in that new film, The Breaker-Uppers,
Yes.
which I'm really looking forward to seeing.
She is what I'm talking about with the New Zealand humour. Like,
Oh, yeah.
she gets it. Like, I don't know, what do you think New Zealand comedy or humor is.
It's sort of strange, man. Like, it's hard to put my finger on it. It's that offbeat kind of quirky humor, but not in a Jared Hess or Wes Anderson way. It's like a very natural type of comedy, but it's still...
It's something that Australian comedy tries to do but never does, never
can't
gets.
do it, yeah.
I think I was sitting there watching it
Yeah.
thinking, what is it that, and applies to everything from
Yeah.
Peter Jackson through to, what they do in the shadows, all this kind of stuff.
Mm.
It's got to be the attention to irrelevant details.
Right.
I think, she will...
That's something, yeah.
Like, she obsessed, like, when, the hilarious moment when she wants to watch Coronation Street.
Oh, yes.
Right? And she starts begging and getting upset because she can't watch her TV show. That's an irrelevant detail.
Totally.
But there's so much attention and focus put on
Yeah.
it. And I think that's it. And there's also that little guy syndrome in New Zealand. I think that sort of plays into it too. Sort of they're isolated from the world, so everything's self-referential.
Yeah.
And obviously the accent kind of makes it irreverent.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was going to say, is there a part of you that can kind of like it in a way, not necessarily liken it as in like it's the same, but in a similar manner to like Canadian sort of humor? Like some Canadian TV shows are very like
there's
very
actually
much their own thing. Like
I've never really made that correlation before, but there's definitely that, and that's the same little guy syndrome. Like they're kind of they share a border with the biggest nation, like the most prolific nation in the world, and so there is definitely that.
They have that rivalry too, back and forth.
They have that funny accent.
Yeah,
I think a funny accent
it's
helps.
unique accent. Yeah,
And I think they also recognise they've got a funny accent, so they play upon it, just like the New Zealanders.
Totally.
Totally. Yeah, so look, these are things I like about the film. Like I said before, the comedy is amazing.
You've got to listen to the commentary track, having the
I
three
will.
New Zealanders, the director, producer, and
I will.
The other producer, executive producer.
That might be the pop moment.
It's fantastic. It's pretty funny. Could very well be. Glenn Paul Waru plays Amos. I believe from the commentary track, he used to host a hip hop show. And where one of the locations where they shot the film was a bit of a bad area, but the neighbouring kids were all big fans of him from his, VJ years hosting that hip hop program. So
He's
they
like
came
the
and got
New
photos
Zealand's
with him.
Jabba.
Yeah, absolutely. Funnily, he actually went to school with Jared Johnson as well, the director.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, he's a show stealer for me in this one.
He's terrific. His timing is so good, and
The scene when he's hiding underneath the canopy of the ute.
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no, he's terrific. It's a shame, though. I had a look on IMDb, and outside of doing some voice work on kids' animated programs in New Zealand, it doesn't seem like he's doing too much in front of the camera. Damn shame, if you ask me. Then the only other actor I really want to mention is Cameron Rhodes, as the film's real villain. I mean, that's obviously a spoiler right there. He oozes predatory cringe, and that's even before we know that he's the actual villain in it. I mean, like, there's something perverse and sleazy about him.
As far as a back catalogue, he's probably the most prolific of all the actors, isn't
I'd say
he?
so, yeah.
Lord of the
But
Rings.
you look at his
done
IMDb, he's only been sort of in the business since 92, but the guy has done like a lifetime of work.
Well, you know what? He's got a great character actor face.
He does, doesn't he?
You know,
yeah. And hence why he's probably ended up in like so many series of Power Rangers.
Well, he has... I look at him and I immediately associate Peter Jackson. I'm like, he's the kind of actor you imagine. Like, he could have played that guy at the start of Brain Dead that says, there's some Dettol in the Jeep. He's that kind of character actor. So he fits the mold brilliantly.
Right. Now, touching on just quickly on themes, this film almost has one of your favourite themes in films, which is, generally the returning home sort of character. Like, she's, that's one of your things.
Nostalgic kind of
and so I
thing.
figured that might be one of the draws for the film for you.
It's
interesting though.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
Yeah.
The bigger draw for me is the one location setting.
That's great.
You
Which
know.
is three. I think it was shot in three
Kind of,
locations, but
you know how I am with sound stages
it's a
and stuff.
confined setting. Yeah,
The confined setting,
Yeah.
it takes me back to the Frighteners and things like that. It's very much along those lines.
You've also got dysfunctional family, the building of that family bond, between the mother and the daughter. They're at ends with one another, and they're brought together by the events of the film, the outsider aspect of Kylie's character, the loser makes good aspect. I mean, there's a lot sort of happening in the themes department for a film that's a comedy horror.
Yeah.
But that said, I guess I will touch briefly on tone.
Yep.
Is that you've kind of got like these three different tones to it. You've got that paranormal sort of paranormal horror. You've got kind of like a detective, like a murder mystery detective sort of thing. And then you've got you've got the the comedy aspect of it as well. So it's like, and I don't know if there's any more, but it's a weird because it's a lot of things to balance.
Crock pot. It's a crock pot.
It's a lot of things to balance. And I mean, even comedy is a little bit slapstick at time, or what do they call it in the Evil Dead films? Splatstick sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because there's that gory sort of humor that comes into play as well.
It really it plays and manipulates the classic tropes of the genre.
Yeah.
Right. So it's hilarious and scary in equal measure.
Yeah.
So what a lot of filmmakers do really well in these sort of films is that they throw a joke at you so you're laughing, and then they frighten the shit out of you when you're not expecting
Exactly.
it. And that's what this does. And I think essentially overall the film subverts the genre completely.
Yeah.
Because the final act, the revelations. I didn't see them coming when I first saw it.
No, I didn't either.
Like, there's a real subversion going on here because
absolutely.
you are convinced you know where it's going.
Absolutely. I mean, we can spoil some things. Like, clearly, I think I actually spoiled it. We did an interview with Jerry Johnson back in 2014 or 2015, maybe, when the Blu-ray came out.
Yeah.
And one of the questions I asked him was People Under the Stairs and
His
maybe
first-
Black Christmas,
his
and he's
first
like,
response was spoiler.
because clearly they are, and he'd said he'd revisited them. Like,
You know
I
what?
mentioned the Frighteners as well.
I did. I'm
Yeah.
surprised that he didn't ask us to leave that out.
Yeah, no.
Let
But then he
us-
could have also asked me to leave out the question where I said, is there any reason you shot this film at 25 frames per second instead of 24 frames? And he goes, basically, we fucked up, or
Yes.
something to that equivalent.
I've put that in my notes because I found that hilarious.
I was like, so funny, because I'm like, should we put that? Yeah, of course
why
we'll
not?
put that
No,
in
but
there.
that's inspirational to up and coming filmmakers.
yeah,
that you can
totally.
fuck up and it doesn't matter.
Totally. And that's the funny thing too. That's a little bit of background on the film. It was shot over a period of 4 years. So it's something that may have happened early in the process. They kind of realized maybe they couldn't kind of reverse
We've
it at
come
that
too
point.
far.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've just got to kind of keep doing it. It was made for about $250,000 and a lot of favors by the commentary. They pulled in favors left, right, and center. Even the security van, the Titan security van,
Yep.
I think was Amos's parents, character's name Amos, Glenn Paul's parents' van, I think, from memory.
Yeah, right.
And they had to drive around with that Titan security on there the entire time while they shot this film. So it's crazy to think. But I mean, it's a film that looks like a hell of a lot of more money.
Yeah.
And
You would never guess it took so long to film. You would
No way.
think that this is something that they've done very professionally, very quickly.
yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. I think the color grading helps that.
Oh, yeah,
Color grading does wonders.
has an incredible
yeah.
grade to it, to be honest. That was one of the things I picked
Yeah.
up. It just looks nice.
And that color grading leaps off the poster.
I was going to say, it marries. It's a perfect
Yeah.
marriage with the poster because there's green tones and everything else.
Were you going to mention the poster later?
The poster comes up, well, not really. The poster comes up when I talk about the DVD or Blu-ray
Okay.
at the end of the program. But if you've got anything to add about the poster, by all
Oh, we
means,
may as
do
well get it
now.
out of the way while we're on the subject. I think it's a fantastic poster. The poster is definitely what appeals to me the most about this one.
Yep.
You've got the classic title font, which is from House.
Which, yes, I was going to mention in a different part, but that'll lead me into the next bit.
Okay,
But keep going.
well, not only is it from House, I think there's a very Hellraiser element to
Yeah,
the
right.
title font anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much other relation to Hellraiser, but the title font
Yeah,
kind of blends in with that. The sort of the painting element of
Yeah.
the images. I think actually the main chick looks a lot like Ashley Lawrence from Hellraiser. I think
Yeah,
that's what kind of
okay, yeah.
draws me into the Hellraiser
See
element.
that?
It's just a really, really cool.
It's great, and the art, I mean, works as its own piece of salesmanship. Like, it's fantastic, but it almost, that art came out during this era of internet memes where you had awkward family photos.
Yeah,
and it
that's
does have
true.
that awesome awkwardness to it. Like, everyone's super awkward on that.
It's got that American Gothic kind of feel to
Totally.
it. Like, yeah, absolutely. And it's olive green color palette.
So actually, touching on that, I just want to go back to how we said the title treatment looked like House.
Yeah.
That is a great segue into the next part where I digress. I want to actually ask you, this is a comedy horror. Essentially, when you
Yeah.
break it down, it's a comedy horror.
Absolutely.
What's a few of your favourite comedy horrors?
Well, immediately Brain Dead.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
That's like the pinnacle for me.
Yep.
Evil Dead, obviously. Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Comedy horror. I love House 2. You know I do.
Oh, yeah, the second story. You love it.
Why do I love that?
I don't know. That's a film that I always come back and one day, will it just work for me?
Why
I
did
don't
I-
hate it, but
Why
I
did
just
I ask that
never
question?
like
I know
it.
why I love it. It's like stop motion animation.
It's a combination of all those things you
it's
like. Adventure. you
The
know.
adventure. It's like
Yep.
they walk into the Lost World and it's
Yeah,
Jurassic Park
yeah.
and Bill Maher's in it. How weird's that?
There's a bit of Western element. It's got a
Is it John
quite a bit going
Ratzenberger's
on.
in it?
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
had Norm in the
Yeah.
first one, and I don't remember his name.
From Cheers.
Yeah, George Wendt is the one from the original House.
Yeah. Anyway, The Mailman is in part 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Comedy horrors. What else? I actually love. There's one called Doghouse with Danny Dyer.
Oh, that's not a bad one.
Zombie
yeah,
horror,
I like that, actually.
comedy horror.
He's a great actor. I
He
like
is.
him. Like, in those kind of movies,
Yeah,
like Severance and that.
He's a
it's
fantastic
terrific.
actor. He just made headlines for his controversial comments on some Today Show with Piers Morgan
Right.
over the last
So
few
he's
days.
still relevant.
He's still relevant because he's
Right.
in what's that famous British soap?
EastEnders?
Yes, he's on
Oh,
EastEnders.
wow. Kind of like the Coronation Street.
Yeah,
New Zealand, yeah.
That's it. So.
Right.
Anyway, digression, massive.
Massive.
What about you?
Yeah, when you end up talking about EastEnders. Yeah. Well, House, 1985's House, directed by Steve Miner, written by Ethan Wiley and Fred Decker, wrote the story. I love it. I think it's the quintessential horror comedy. It's fantastic. I quite draw a bit of a comparison between these two. I mean, it's more obviously on the paranormal horror aspect than having the murder mystery or anything like that to it. But House is like my all-time favorite comedy horror. Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, hell yeah.
Absolute classic.
Yeah, we're going to have to cover that on this.
On
our
franchise,
Yeah.
absolutely, I'd be dying to do it. In fact, that will be what will make me watch Rave to the Grave and that other one, Necronopolis, I think it is. I'll get there. Evil Dead 2, which you mentioned. Zombieland, which I think,
hell yeah.
Yeah, Zombieland, because
Hell
it's
yeah.
kind of like a later film, and it doesn't get talked about that often.
No, but also that came at a time when there's saturation in the zombie genre, and it kind of injected that much needed comedy, and then everyone started copying, including Doghouse.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
that's a great film.
It's a great one, and then of course the modern classic, The Cabin in the Woods.
Dude. See,
Well, we couldn't do a whole episode about Cabin in the Woods.
well, and also
But,
you knew that question was coming, so you've had time to think about this.
I did, yeah. It was
Shit.
really quick though, because like House was the first thing that spawned it. Like that was.
I want to sit here and just like mull over it and think of like you know how you and I get excited when someone says, "Oh, can you compile a list of your top 50 films?" And you put
like,
so much energy into it.
Oh, and then I get like 10 films into it. I'm like, oh no, I'll never be able to win this. Like it doesn't work. Like that one you did where it's like name your favorite film of this year, and I went for like 3 years, and I was like, no, I've agonized over this. I spent like an hour and a half, and I'd only got through 3 years.
Dude, holy shit! How did I not think of Reanimator?
Oh, Reanimate, of course.
That's
definitely.
That's my favorite.
Definitely.
Above Brain Dead.
Yeah, right. So that's interesting you actually mentioned Brain Dead because New Zealand horror. I mean, there hasn't been a great deal of films, but the films that have come out have been pretty extraordinary, really. Everything from Death Warmed Up in the 80s through to Bad Taste, then all the Peter Jackson catalogue. In fact, if you listen to the commentary on Housebound, the amount of times Peter Jackson mentioned, they actually reference how many times they mention him. It's a drinking game unto its own.
Yeah, sure.
I guess you can't talk about New Zealand horror without referencing Peter Jackson or comedy horror, really.
You can't talk about the New Zealand film industry without him.
No, exactly. He's the backbone. He's really what gave New Zealand their film industry and their TV industry from like everything from I was going to say Xena and that, but that's Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert that were responsible for bringing Xena and Ash vs.
Do you know
Evil
what?
Dead.
Holy shit, that's going to come into this later too.
Right.
I'll have something to say about that.
Okay, that's
Weird.
interesting.
But yeah, no, but what's that? He did that Silver Fly. Was that what it was called? Like as the mockumentary television?
The Silver Mountain, not Silver Mountain, Silver whatever. Silver, God, it's killing me. Forgotten Silver. Forgotten Silver?
If only you can see Jarrett's face.
Forgotten Silver, I think it was. And the beauty of it was like a modern War of the Worlds. Like they played it on New Zealand TV and people were convinced.
Fooled everyone.
Amazing, man. Amazing. It breaks my heart to think that the Peter Jackson, horror comedies and just the bizarre exploitation kind of comedy like Meet the Feebles, all these films are currently unavailable because there's the promise that Peter Jackson wants to go back and restore them and do all that sort of stuff, which I'm really cool and happy about. He said he was going to do it.
He's taking his
but he's taken a long time. It's taken longer than James Cameron is to release True Lies on Blu-ray because he wanted to make it into 3D. Fuck that, James. Let's just keep moving. Titanic didn't work out in 3D that well. You just need to get it out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, heartbreaking because I think there's a generation of kids that are missing out because by not having them on streaming services or not having them available on physical media, they're probably not films that they're going to torrent.
You
or
leave it
borrow
too long,
tapes
we won't
for.
give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
and Brain Dead, particularly. I mean, he already gave Frighteners special treatment with the DVD and then the Blu-ray.
Yeah, which is terrific. I guess because it's a studio film, he didn't own it, so
But he still pumped out. He gave them all that footage that he had because he recorded everything.
The behind-the-scenes doco is like 3 hours or something.
Exactly,
it's extraordinary.
Right. So he needs to because he wants to go and do that again. So fuck that. give us Brain Dead, like the definitive.
Totally.
In its brain dead form, not its dead
Not
alive
as
form.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah, I don't want that dead alive cut.
And give us the 3 cuts, because there's 3 cuts.
Yeah,
to that
yeah,
film.
absolutely. Yeah, make it everything we deserve, but make it happen now. Make it happen now. So that's all we ask. I mean, the rest of your catalog's available. But yeah, Peter Jackson.
I also want to see him return to the genre.
Yeah, well, so the last horror film would have been The Frighteners.
Yeah, but then he sort of went to Lovely Bones, which touched upon some kind of
it
horror
almost
element.
felt a bit like Heavenly Creatures as well.
It's like a companion film to that, yeah, for sure.
Totally.
But I would love to see him go back to some true horror. No, didn't he produce a horror film more recently? Can't think off the top of my head.
I almost feel like you're correct.
We should know.
We totally should know that. Peter Jackson presents. So yeah, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. Maybe there's not another horror movie produced.
I don't know.
But look, he sort of started off in a similar fashion to Jared Johnson in that, he was. Well, I think he was actually shooting the films himself, like shot Bad Taste, but he certainly was editing, directing, producing, writing, and I mean Jared Johnson. He's written, produced, maybe co-produced, directed, and edited Housebound. So it's been a labour of love for him also. But, and Jared's had a background in working in TV. He did a New Zealand TV series. I think it was like I want to say the Jackie Brown Diaries, but I don't think that's correct. Actually, I actually think it is, but it's Jackie spelt like...
The other way.
Yeah, the other way. JAC, who gives a shit? Or JAQ. Yeah. But I have read, the last few things he's been doing. Because when we spoke to him, he said he had a few interesting things in the pipeline that he was excited about, but he didn't really reveal.
Which gave you the impression it was feature film.
Totally, but it's just been TV.
Yeah.
It's been
TV.
TV.
He did, Terry Teo?
Yep.
Which is based on a popular children's series of novels or books.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I just discovered that he's behind a lot of the episodes of the New Legends of Monkey.
At least 4 of maybe the 13 odd episodes.
And that's why I wanted to mention Hercules and Xena, because this has that feel. Have you watched the trailer for this?
Is it on Netflix?
I don't know if it's landed yet, but having known that, having read that he did, I think 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah.
I wanted to check it out, so I watched the trailer, and it looks awful.
Yeah, right.
It looks like a whitewashing of Monkey to begin with, right?
Wow, that's interesting. And
because these are sort of, it looks like they're Maori actors as opposed to sort of Asian actors.
Yeah, right.
There's a couple of Asians. The lead guy playing Monkey doesn't look all that similar to the previous incarnations, but it just had that real Hercules Xena kind of look to it. Really cheesy,
cheap and cheesy sort of vibe. Which is why I never got into Xena or
it was too hokey for my liking.
Way too hokey, and I mean they were still making kind of feature films that were B movies that were better than serialized like sword and sandal shit.
Yeah, but I guess this is something new for the people that were really into that.
Oh yeah, I mean those shows were so massive. And I certainly tried, and look, what it did was it created a television industry in New Zealand, thanks to Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert, that extended to present day, for obviously this Monkey series, but for the Ash vs Evil Dead series and things of that nature. But I did also read,
which had Lucy Lawless in it.
Yes, Lucy Lawless. Yeah. Awesome. I was going to say Lucy Liu.
She's the new Monkey.
Yeah. Oh well, you never know.
She's not.
But I did also read, according to Internet Gossip, Jared's working on a Justice League film. But it's a dark Justice League film with Swamp Thing.
But there's not a lot of information other than sort of IMDb attached him to it.
Yeah, or some randos just put in all the details. Because every now and again I'll look and I've been attached to something weird.
Yeah.
And but it'll be weird. Someone's attached me as the executive producer. My name's pretty uncommon. So it's it's not that Jared Garner, it's the other Jared Garner.
Yeah, for people that don't know how IMDb works, you can just nominate someone and it gives you an option of people that sound the same, and you have to choose.
So I've been attached to stuff, and it takes the process, and you detach yourself from it.
Dude, I saw your name attached to something called Before Their Time the other day.
I'd love to know more about that, Glenn. When do you reckon they'll reveal more information on that?
I have no idea. Coming soon to a Fake Shemp near you.
All right, well, I'll keep my eyes peeled and my ears.
Speaking of Fake Shemp and Evil Dead and Sam Raimi, that's where we get the name from. For people that don't know.
I like it when we occasionally get the message and do you know about the connection with Fake Shemp? And you're like, oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it's like, duh, no shit, Sherlock.
Viewlorium is the place to stream cult movies for free. I'm talking mutated sharks, megastorms, Ozploitation, low-budget indies, and shit tons of other stuff. Viewlorium boasts a huge selection of the good, the bad, and the weird in between. FakeShip.net uses their service. Guilty as charged. Be rad like them. Viewlorium. Alternative streaming. Visit viewlorium.com. Like, right now.
Don't forget to catch our other show, Franchised, where we dive into some of cinema's most memorable franchises.
Well, I don't know, because sometimes you come up with some of the
Different
randomest things. You were telling me in one episode about Blake Lively being related to Jason Lively, and that blew my mind.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Got a shot. Last time I found out about the
Alison
sex
Mack?
cult, Alison Mack's sex cult. How come you guys are just like?
How come we're all over it, Jared?
I know, that's what I want to know.
know
How
so
come
much.
Every time I show up, you guys are like, no, here's another sex pass for you.
You can show your support by liking our social media pages, subscribing to our channels, and sharing us with your friends. We're on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and a whole bunch of other places. Or you can keep it simple and visit our website at fakeshemp.net.
What are you going to do against a hostile spirit?
I'm going to smash it in the face.
You've watched this film more times than I have. I have watched it with the audio commentary, though, and I learnt a lot from the audio commentary, some of which I did mention early. My favourite thing I learnt from the audio commentary is that in New Zealand, they call speed bumps judder bars. A judder bar. And as soon as it came on, I said to Danny, I was like, judder bar. This was
What?
the bedroom. She's like, what? And I'm like, judder bar. I'm just like, what? What's a judder bar? I'm like, it's a speed bump in New
Judder
Zealand.
Bar, isn't it like the remake of Babadook?
The Judder Bar. It's a New Zealand remake. It's much funnier, though.
Speaking of remakes, there's a Hollywood remake
I
being
know this has been talked
teased.
about since, literally since 2015 when the film was, widely released. It's been talked about, but I've seen nothing of it. I even Googled it to try and find more info, but I can't find anything current.
Maybe they can get Gus Van Sant onto the case.
Oh, geez, that would be incredible. He could remove all the humour and make it an absolute atrocity. I trust him to do it. I mean, I've seen some of his latter work, and I did not enjoy it. Elephant, I did not like it. You don't mind Elephant.
I
though,
love
do
that
you?
whole trilogy.
What was the others?
You had, Elephant Last Days.
And Jerry, was that
Jerry,
part of it?
I love
Fucking
Jerry.
Man.
I love it.
I was watching, I was like, when's this shot going to end? I was just watching him cross the
The whole
whole
film
entire
is one
desert
shot.
in one shot. It's ridiculous.
That's the whole film.
Was it really in one shot?
Mostly. No, because it cuts
No, yeah, I was
to
gonna say it
different
couldn't.
angles, but it's the one scene.
Right.
The whole
right.
film is them walking.
I was hungover when I watched that movie and I was like,
Did you watch it through to the end?
Yeah, I watched all of it because I was like, at the end, because,
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler, it kills him.
Yeah.
And he's left to his own devices to walk across the desert. But it felt like, when's he going to leave frame? He's just walking. And I was like, it's like watching an ant move.
So as the whole gist of that trilogy is it's sort of humans turning upon themselves.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and in the case of Last Days, it's the fictionalized version of Kurt Cobain's last moments. and
That's
he
the
turns
one I
upon
haven't
himself.
watched with
Michael
Michael Penn.
Pitt, yeah.
Michael Pitt, yeah.
Michael
You haven't
Pitt.
watched it, yeah.
Anyway, that's
Are you sure Psycho's not part of it? Because that sounds like humanity turning against humanity by doing something awful.
that was Gus Van Sant turning on his fans,
Yeah, it was. What an asshole. Yeah, look.
pissing straight into the mouth of Alfred Hitchcock's corpse.
I got nothing else to say about Gus Van Sant. Do I have anything else to say about the commentary? It's got Ant Timpson on it, who's a pretty famous New Zealand producer. He produced The Greasy Strangler, the ABCs of Death movies, most recently The Field Guide to Evil. Terrific New Zealand producer, and he's on there with the director Jared Johnson, producer Luke Sharp. And they're drinking throughout the commentary.
Oh, shit.
They
Awesome.
crack a bottle of 2011 champagne that they'd been saving for when the film wrapped, and then it just kept going and going and going. So they finally drink it when they're
So
doing
what
the
you're
commentary
saying
track.
is that
Yeah.
everyone should buy the film.
Yeah, you should own it. You
Yeah,
should
alright.
own it. And if you do own it, or if you want to buy it, the version you have to buy is the Australian, possibly New Zealand release. I assume it's the same. Because ours is at 25 frames per second on the Blu-ray and DVD, whereas the US, they've slowed it down to 24 frames per second. So it's one of those kind of weird things. Normally they speed things up.
It won't look quite right.
Yeah, and won't sound right because you'll suddenly, the voices will sound slowed down or sped up. Slowed down. Yes, or sped up. Sped up? I don't know. Anyway.
Your
let's-
voice just went
I
slow
know, it did
and then
all
sped.
of that. Apart from the commentary, it's also got 3 deleted scenes. Pretty easy to see why these deleted scenes didn't make the film, but there's a little title card before each that explains why they were cut from the film. Really cool. Apart from that, I think it's just a bunch of trailers and that beautiful artwork.
Yeah, cool cover.
Magnificent artwork, and if you're like Glenn, you might even have a signed copy of it. So, yeah, look. I don't have anything more to say about Housebound other than if you haven't seen it, you shouldn't have listened to this podcast. You should have waited because we've ruined it. Actually, we really haven't. Like, one of the other things I will mention is
No, we've totally ruined it.
We've totally ruined a lot of it, but I'm going to ruin more just before. Because I figure, like, if you've listened this far, you should have the film completely ruined for you. But obviously, yes, you've got that whole Black Christmas people under the stairs thing, the hider in the house aspect, which was a massive, massive surprise, you know, for me. Like, sitting
Changing
there.
Legend of Hell House. These are
Incredible.
all influences.
Yeah. There's another film I mentioned, but it's too contemporary that I don't want to ruin that movie. All I can say is that I turned to the wife during this movie when we saw it play in theaters in the US, and I said, "This is exactly the ending from Housebound." And I was like, "They've just ripped off." This
Tell
film
me
that
and I'll
kind
beep
of-
it. Tell me and I'll beep it. Ah, yes.
Please tell me you've seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank God. Because I was like, could ruin the movie for you. Yeah, look, that's pretty much all I've got to say before we kind of, wrap it up. I
Yep.
do want to thank the Screaming Meanies
Of course.
for their incredible intro and outro music. I don't think it would be the same podcast if we didn't have the talented Screaming Meanies supply the music. Glenn, is there anything more that you want to say about Housebound or New Zealand horror, New Zealand humour, anything in general?
No, not particularly. I'll get
Gus
back
Van
to
Sant?
One New Zealand film I'd like to throw to. I mention this every now and then. It used to be an obscurity and a guilty pleasure for me. Is a film called The Ugly, a New Zealand
Yes,
horror
yep.
film that is just abstract and surreal and abnormal. Has an actress from Full Frontal in it.
Right.
So there's
wow,
that.
that's a weird tie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a strange film.
Yeah.
If you've never seen it, it's hard to find, but look for it.
Yeah. Because you, I remember you actually covered it on a previous podcast. It's
Yep.
one of those obscure, probably a gem or something of that
Something
nature.
like that. It's all of
One
the
of
above.
those things. Yeah.
Put it this
excellent.
way: there's a lot of blood let in, and all the blood's black
Wow.
with no explanation.
Yeah,
as to
I
why.
feel like you've told me that before, and I still haven't seen this film. I remember it coming out, and I just never saw it. But it got a wider release overseas.
Yeah.
Like, it's not available on DVD locally. You got the US DVD from
Yeah.
memory. Yeah, unusual. Anyway, I think that's really it.
That is it. I'll
so
let you know how viewing number 5 goes.
6, is it 6?
Oh,
Or 5?
5.
5, right. Oh,
Coming up.
excellent, dude. You'll have seen it more times than I have by the time I die. Anyway, thanks again for listening, and we'll be back soon.